can tell, do you see the road? I'm not to my soul until it decides. Whenever the smoke clear out of my face and my picture perfect, you do it. All of that green and yellow, the truth, yeah. When I tell you the.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to Cypherfics. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the second part of, What If BEN10 Meets One-Punch-Man? Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of I4MD347H on fanfiction.net. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. Fire flickered, smoke rose from within an apartment. Glass panes fell in shards as explosions erupted within as the heat ignited the flammable gases inside. Within the building, a mother and her daughter were trapped, the descending stairs collapsed into piles of tinder as the inferno cordoned their escape. The girl huddled into her mother's bosom as the air grew thick and thin. They were about to die, trapped in choking smog and hellfire with no path for the rescuers to come to their aid. However, Gwen, in the form of heat blast, dove down from the ceiling. Deep concentration contorted her face as she held up a piece of fallen debris overhead. The little girl was amazed by the spectacle standing before her. Who are you? The girl breathed out in sheer awe, her mother still clinging onto her for moral support. Gwen gazed down at the two with a determined frown that didn't signify any iota of vitriol. I'm here to help, Gwen replied as she discarded the scorched slab of wood without much effort. She then outstretched her brightly lit hands and absorbed the surrounding fire like a heat-centric vacuum. To the mother and child's combined shock, the doorway to their damaged apartment was now free to enter. Follow me. Gwen signaled for the two to get up, leading them to a staircase built near the hallway. However, much to the Pyronite's chagrin, it collapsed into pieces from the building's constant rumbling. Just when she thought today would be no different. Don't worry. We'll take this way instead. Gwen assured them at the sight of a wooden door built into the wall. With an elongated blast of flame, minding the mother and child, Gwen tore out an entrance to the outside world. Stick close to me, Gwen ordered calmly, pointing to the right and left sides of her body. The mom, while slightly hesitant, followed the fiery life form with her daughter held in hand. Toot sweet, Gwen formed a massive fire tornado around herself and the other two. It curved down to the sidewalk and safely placed them on top of the pavement. Due to Heat Blast's control over all forms of heat, the mother, daughter, and surrounding populace were left unharmed. Thank you so much, ma'am. The mother thanked her with some sense of uncertainty, not sure if fire monsters really had genders. The little girl also did the same, nodding her head up and down enthusiastically. No need to thank me. It's all in a day's work for a hero such as myself. She placed her hands on her peach, jutting her chest forward with pride. Behind the crowd, the rust bucket drove silently. She could see Grandpa Max through the driver's window, but no sign of Bino, Garou. She should really stop referring to him as Ben. Wonder where he could be. Gwen wondered aloud to herself, departing from the crowd to take a seat in the rust bucket. After making sure she was safe from public sight, Gwen sighed in relief as her timer went off, returning her to human form after her dial flashed constant red. Grandpa? Where is? Well, you know. Gwen asked. Max pursed his lips as he stared at the front window. I had to take care of a problem. A familiar voice replied before Max could answer. Looking back, they saw Garou yawning, but his fists were caked in crimson. Blood was on his hands, and it was not his. Garou went to the sink and washed his hands, cleaning the bloodstains down the drain with soap and water. What did you do now? Gwen sighed with crossed arms. Took down the guys that set the fire, Garou replied as he walked to the fridge, opening it to browse what was currently in stock. Gwen and Max shared a look, sharing a growing concern regarding Garou's mindset. This wasn't his first time brutally punishing criminals. One time, Garou beat up 3 thugs because they were robbing an old lady. They have never seen someone's limbs twisted into a pretzel before, and it was a sad sight. Look, Garou. I know you're doing the right thing, but could you consider easing up on the violence a bit? It's getting out of hand really fast. Gwen chastised the hero hunter for the BLD he inadvertently put on her cousin's hands. Hey, if you live in a world where people can turn into monsters and deaths come in daily, this much isn't considered as too far. Garou retorted, taking out a sandwich from the fridge. Yeah, but you're not in your world right now. We have laws against this type of stuff. Gwen was starting to question the laws and etiquettes of the heroes in his world. It could be unique to Garou himself. Well, the worst thing is to be thrown in prison with a hero that rapes men, Garou casually shrugged. The image of a man doing that with another man crossed Gwen's and Max's mind. They did not like the picture as their stomach churned with disgust. Please don't put that image in my head. Gwen hissed in disgust, pinching the bridge of her nose with closed eyes. It's true there is an S-class hero like that. He is one of the more questionable hero types. Garou continued before biting into his sandwich. What? Gwen was confused. Wait, are you serious? One of your world's best heroes is a SXL offender. Gwen looked stupefied. Repeated SXL offender. Rumor has it he collects the criminals he caught to his prison cell. I have so much to say to criticize your world's ethics, I don't know where to start. Gwen retorted. She decided to stop talking about Garou's insane world before she strayed from the topic too much. But that's beside the point. Just promise me that you'll hold back just a little on normal criminals. For aliens, do what you want. Gwen pleaded earnestly, her eyes narrowed to show that she meant business. Garou paused mid-chewing, silently contemplating her suggestion. While he had no tolerance for despicable acts, like bullying the weak, Garou did not have any real obligations to enact penance on the sinners. This was not his world, but in his heart, it did not matter anyway. Fine. I'll leave them on the floor, drooling. She reminded him of a mother, despite her age. Better, I think. Gwen did not know what he meant by drooling, but it was a start. On the other hand, Max sighed from mental exhaustion. Traveling with a stranger in his grandson's body was not in his expectations when he invited them on a summer trip. What did you do to them this time? He asked. Garou turned to the Tennysons, his lips spread wide in a smirk. Well. The fire was just a diversion, noise to keep the eyes of the law from a simple crime. The cost was the lives of many for trinkets and gems, yet the thieves did not care. They sold the victims to the devil's mercy, their reward was more time to flee with the wealth they harvested and the hope to return as rich men. The two men drove from the jewelry store with breakneck haste, grinning in their hearts as they inwardly laughed. No sirens blared, no sight of striped cars in their rearview mirror, the absence of anyone chasing them brought the crooks much delight. Hey! However, they heard an unexpected voice in the back seat. Confused, the driver tilted the rearview mirror down, seeing a kid in their car. He had brown hair and a white t-shirt, his leggings were baggy dark green jeans. Is that a kid back there? The driver uttered. Look, kid, I don't know how you got in, but... The kid smirked as he pointed left. The crooks tilted their rearview mirror, catching a glaring hole in the handle of the van. The villains gawped at it for a moment as the kid started crunching his knuckles together. I've never hunted small fry before. But, since I've got time, well, his grin widened into a wicked length, a mean promising pain and punishment for the ones in front. Within the van, cries of pain and shouts for mercy resounded, the vehicle's trajectory thrown off its course as it crashed into the walls on the sidewalk. The pedestrians all fled from its path, with no casualties from the impact. However, something odd happened. The door to the van fell off from its hinges, splitting from the impact. What fell afterward were two occupants, each with faces bloodied and swelling black and blue under their ski masks. And that's what happened. He narrated as he threw the last piece into his mouth. The police didn't see you, right? Gwen asked nervously, guessing that her aunt and uncle would age 60 years if they saw that their only son was a wanted felon. Please, I'm faster than Lightspeed Flash despite the downgrade. Garou spread his arms, gesturing to his weaker body. Lightspeed Flash. And you say my names are bad. Gwen laughed at the mention of this person. I know, right? That guy boasted he's the fastest hero alive, but you know the story, Garou replied as he swallowed his meal. How fast are you anyway? Gwen wondered, curious of his limits. Don't know. If Lightspeed Flash is as fast as he sounds, then consider me faster, Garou shrugged. Oh. A devious idea popped in Gwen's head. If you're as fast as you claim, then wanna test it with XLR8? Gwen challenged in a joking manner, displaying the shadow of a dinosaur-like creature. Ha! You think your cheap aliens can stand against me? Garou dared. Afraid of losing to a girl? Gwen quipped back. Oh, you're on. Garou accepted as he placed his feet off the table, ready to go whenever Gwen was. Not now, you two. We need to go to the local grocery store for supplies. Max lectured with little patience at the moment, looking at them through the rust bucket's rearview mirror. Oh. That's right, we almost ran out. Plus, with his appetite, we'll be there quite a lot. Gwen jerked a thumb toward said human monster with a mischievous grin. Garou was already digging for more food in the fridge, scouring the deepest corners of the freezing container. When Garou closed the fridge, he emerged with a jar of pickles in hand. He even had a pickle in his mouth. What? He crunched the end off before swallowing. Blame this body. It's not my fault this thing is poorly maintained. Watch it, Max warned. That's my grandson you're talking about. Max reprimanded Garou with a stern frown. Grandson, my butt. Is there anything redeeming about him? Garou quirked a brow as he started munching on the pickles bar by bar. Well, there's quite a few actually. For one thing, Ben always had the instinct to help others. Apparently, he tried to protect someone from two bullies named JT and Cash, Max brought up. He got wedged for that, Grandpa, Gwen reminded him with a mocking snicker. Garou smirked in mocking victory over Max and his pitiful defense. I rest my case. Garou finished eating all of the pickles, he burped into his hand as before giving Max his back. Hey, it's the thought that counts. Max defended. Garou found his argument weak and wearing thin. Before the argument can continue, they arrived at the grocery store just in time as Max parked the rust bucket in a free parking spot. Anyways, let's go. I am starving for some cola and pizza. Stretching his arms from the hours of the trip's dull idleness, Garou ran out of the rust bucket. Like you're any better, Max muttered under his breath once Garou left, rolling his eyes as he proceeded the drive to M-Mart. Gwen looked at Max, sheepishly grinning somewhat. What? Max asked, turning to Gwen. It's the first time I've seen you argue like this. It's kind of cute. She smiled wider. Cute? That's the last thing someone would describe me as. I'm just frustrated. That's all. Max denied distastefully, wondering where this summer started to go wrong. Come on, Grandpa. You have to admit that Garou is better than Ben in some aspects. I mean, he's in shape for one. Gwen attempted to cheer up the elder Tennyson with some positives. Max couldn't deny that Garou was helping Ben's body get into shape. His muscle tone was starting to show under his shirt, and it was developing at a noticeable pace. That's not the point, Gwen. I set up this vacation as a way of bonding with the two of you. As a family. With Ben gone, I feel like this summer won't be as enjoyable as it could have been. Max sighed forlornly with saddened eyes. Gwen thought back for a moment, looking up. She remembered the exciting stories behind Garou's background, how easy it was to talk to him afterward. He was kinder and much less annoying to speak to, he was mature, he was fun to talk to, and he was strong as heck. Not only that, he knows how to fight very well. Garou even admitted his identity openly to them, sharing Max's longing to leave Ben's body. Just give him a chance, Grandpa. It's not like Ben will be gone forever. We'll get him back someday. Plus, Garou wants the same thing, it's just a matter of getting used to him. He is kinda fun. Gwen promised kindly, glancing back at Garou's form with a warm smile. You're right, honey. I'll work on it. Max's frustration slowly bled from him. Dealing with Garou was a hurdle in itself, but that did not mean the man wanted to stay. He didn't ask for this, too, which made this problem even harder to handle. Let's go. What do you want to buy? And you said that Ben likes seeing fat men wrestling each other to the ground? Why? Garou and Gwen browsed the cereal aisle, the shelves holding the Sumo Slammer brands, as they discussed Ben's likes and dislikes. Garou squinted his eyes at the cartoonish picture of the fat man on the cardboard, trying to understand why Ben found the Sumo Slammer thing interesting. Yeah, he was practically obsessed. Mostly because of the video games, I think. I don't understand it much either. Gwen honestly explained, observing the multicolored Sumo Slammers cards on each box. The games are not even that good, Garou would rather fight the Baldy again than to suffer boredom. What about the cereal? Are the oats even worth the money? Garou asked if she tried the brand before. No. Not even close. Gwen spat in disgust, remembering the time she had to rinse out her poor taste buds after eating one piece of the dreaded cereal. Ha! Now, I feel sorry for you. Garou wondered how the girl could stand such an obnoxious ego. Not even he was that annoying when he was 10. Yeah, but that's Ben's thing. I usually practice real fighting like taekwondo and jiu-jitsu. The mention of martial arts reminded him of his secondary objective. He wanted to check this world's martial arts to expand his repertoire of skills. Oh. You're a martial artist? Garou asked. Yup. I may not look like it, but I'm a fighter through and through. But I can't do things like cutting up machines or beat up criminals. Gwen's jubilance slightly disheartened once. Comparing her feats to his. So, what kind of martial arts did you study? Studied? Garou only spent his time mastering one art first. The rest he learned on the fly through direct combat. Now that I think about it, I only mastered one martial art, then I developed my own down the line after I left the dojo. Garou ruminated his years of harsh training and trials to this point, a laborious yet fulfilling experience now that he looked back. Gwen's smirk fell flat from Garou's answer. Really? You've created your own martial art? Her skeptical tone instilled a strange urge to boast in Garou. For some reason, he felt different when he entered this body. He uncovered a few traits he usually did not have before. Either Garou was inheriting some of Ben's personality or his age was the reason. I'll have you know that I made it at the CLMX of my hero hunting career. It's the culmination of the 12 prime martial arts I absorbed, and it has no weaknesses. Garou spoke with pride, smirking with his nose held high. And you still lost to the Baldy? Gwen chimed with a growing smirk, breaking Garou's momentum like a hammer to glass. Shut theet. You'll eat that grin when he pummels every alien you got in that watch. He indignantly raged defensively, pointing his finger at her when Garou gnashes her teeth. Gwen nearly busted her gut laughing, pfff, ahahahahahaha. She had never heard of anyone losing to someone so ridiculous, a martial art MSTR losing to a stupid caped Baldy. The more she learned of Garou's background, the funnier it was to tease him. It's not funny. Garou shouted back, grinding Ben's teeth with indignant anger. Hearing Garou says that with Ben's voice only fueled her laughter. Ahahahahahaha. I can't stop laughing if you're like that. Gwen continued her laughter, occasional snickers leaking out after she laughed out all of her energy to laugh as she smiled at Garou's angry frown. She wondered how funny it would be if Garou frowned in his original face. Are you done? Garou asked, not amused by her sly grin and spent chuckles. Ha 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 yeah. Anyways, overpowered baldies aside, think you can tell me about your no weaknesses martial art, by any chance? I've been in tournaments before, but I'm always looking for ways to improve. Gwen asked with anticipation, her green eyes glowing with excitement. Garou stared at her for a moment before reviewing her abilities by this point. Her fighting style was very unpolished, unrefined, her experience with combat natal, and her potential was opaque, but there was a light at the end of that tunnel. Well, I'm not sure if you can use it, but there are a few styles we can try. We can start with the water stream rock smashing fist. I grew up learning it from the old geezer. Gwen's ears perked at the mention of a teacher. Really? What's his name? Garou recalled the dojo, the steep stairs leading to the mountain atop, the harsh days of training under the sun. Day by day it felt nostalgic, an irony since he was now passing his teachings on to another person. Well, they call him Bang. He is also the number 3 hero, Silver Fang. The reason that Garou entered his dojo was that he was strong, the top number 3 hero when he was 10. He trained under his dojo for years, to stand up against the many that oppressed him. In a sense, he got his wish but not without leaving mistakes along the way. Wait, so your MSTR is a hero himself? Gwen's emerald eyes sparkled at the thought. To be trained by a monster-slaying hero must be an opportunity of a lifetime. She always wanted to train under one of those true kung fu masters before, but finding one was just an ideal dream now, it was within arm's reach. Yeah. It was the reason why I joined in the first place when I was 10. The old fart is as strong as his reputation, maybe even more so, he admitted. During their conversation, Garou picked up a cereal box from the shelf. He stared at the Sumo Slammer logo on the cardboard, finding the sight of the overweight man repulsive. Hold up, if your MSTR was a hero, when did you decide to hunt them down? Gwen wondered in a less excited tone. When I was 18. I am still 18 on the inside. Garou replied as he looked at the back, the sides, and top of the cereal box out of morbid curiosity. That doesn't really explain why, but you don't have to tell me. Gwen exclaimed quietly, not wanting to put too much pressure on him. Ever wonder what makes a hero? Garou asked, placing the cereal box on the shelf. The willingness to protect the innocent and save lives. Or standing up for what's right, even if you don't have the power to do so. Then tell me. What is the definition of right? Garou asked, bringing Gwen into a realm of uncertain truth, the line between right and wrong. It's difficult to explain. Like what's morally sound, maybe. Gwen shrugged nervously. I know what you mean. But what if the definition of right meant taking down anyone they see as evil? Or in the wrong? Even if they aren't, Garou asked. I mean, I'm smart enough to know that the world isn't black and white. Some people considered evil nowadays were probably seen as good by the people they ruled over. Gwen shared her thoughts, images of the Roman Empire appearing inside her head. He might be going through a form of Weltschmerz. And if such trust was abused by the hero, to abuse the weak, what would you do if all you believed to be good turned out rotten from the inside? Gwen paused for a moment, trying to think of a logical response to this very possible situation. What would she do if someone close to her committed some act of betrayal? Like Grandpa Max, for instance. Those I looked up to before turned out to be fakes. I took the mantle of hero hunter to show the world the true nature of the heroes they rely on and break free from the rigged system. I want to show the world how fragile their justice and their failings to see the rot within the hero association, he cursed. Gwen was starting to understand where Garou was coming from. I understand what you're feeling, Garou, but hunting down those same heroes isn't any better. Gwen reminded him of the grey morality laced in his actions. They represent everything that is wrong with the current society's justice. If they see their idols of justice fall, then it would mean everything they believed in is wrong in return. To represent justice, you need to become a symbol, and to represent the opposite, I must become the antithesis. I wanted to become the symbol of fear to fight against this biased justice, but now it doesn't matter anymore. I've lost in the end in a fair fight regardless. And now I am stuck in the body of an idiot that liked to see fat men fight each other and rot his brain in video games. Gwen spluttered in laughter upon hearing his end joke, complaining about Ben even though he was not here. And now, I'm wondering what you would do if you actually met him in person. Gwen laughed playfully, wiping a stray tear from her eye. That depends. What would he say if we met face to face? Garou dryly asked. Oh, I know. You're not so tough. I bet I could destroy you in sumo slammers. Gwen mockingly imitated Ben's whiny voice, adding a few voice cracks for good measure. Garou snickered as he chuckled. What the hell, that sounded worse than I thought. Oh God, I now want a voice change, Garou snickered, his voice now sounding like how Ben would laugh. Too bad. You're stuck with it. Gwen giggled while playfully wagging her finger. Garou only rolled his eyes with sarcasm. Oh, shut up. Back to our shopping list, what should we bring to the rust bucket? Anything you want. You tell me. You're a walking garbage disposal. Gwen pointed out Garou's inhuman metabolism. Neither she nor Garou could comprehend how or why his hunger persisted even after emptying their fridge. She didn't even know that the human body could store or process that many calories in the first place. Not only that, Garou did not also go to the bathroom that much despite the amount in Bus gullet. Where did it all go entering his mouth? If you ask me, I will hoard one of everything, but I don't think there's enough room in the rust bucket, Garou quipped. Gwen couldn't agree more, maybe we should find my grandpa first. Hopefully, Max had some extra storage space in the RV. But, suddenly, a loud crash exploded from the entrance, then a loud rumble vibrating their feet. The two pseudo-cousins looked at each other for a moment before they walked towards the source of the noise. What they didn't expect was an unusual sight customarily reserved for Garou's world, or so the former villain thought. Before the duo's very eyes was a giant bullfrog with 4 red and black eyes. It had 2 light green horns and many dark orange spots. Sitting on top of its neck was a strange old man with pale skin and a dark green tank top. He wore red goggles and a pot-like helmet that was firmly attached to his head using earmuffs. The individual also had long, white hair and sharp fingernails that were unusually long. The two looked at the mount and rider, one looked shocked to see the strange combination, while the latter dropped his jaw upon seeing such a combination happening in a quiet supermarket. You said that there aren't monsters here, right? Garou asked for confirmation. Why yeah. Positive. Gwen gulped a growing lump in her throat. You sure? It looks exactly like something that would pop up back home. Either this was a first-time occurrence or something went wrong after he arrived. He hoped it wasn't the latter, however. What usually pops up in your world, anyway? Gwen whispered. There was that one time a giant popped up. It was so tall that its head reached the clouds, and it wiped out City D with one swing of its arms. When King killed it, it fell on City B, flattening that one, too. Garou gave a morbid example of what lies in his realm. You're acting as if that's normal. Gwen screeched in surprise. Hey, I faced worse, honestly, and I'm fine. You're a superhuman something. Of course, you'll be fine. That's not normal. Gwen retorted. In the background, the weird scientist jumped off of his pet and took a burlap sack. He set his sights on some circuit boards hanging off of a rack and proceeded to throw them into his sack bunch by bunch. Gwen, when things like that happen weekly, you will treat it as normal. I never said it was a safe world, remember? Not even Garou could predict the number of monsters that would pop up now and then. No one understood how the monster phenomenon occurred in the first place. Ha! Fine, fine. But what about that thing? Gwen cringed at the sight of the oversized amphibian as it patiently waited for its MSTR to return. That one is a more common occurrence. But we should get moving, or he'll get away. Do you want to go at them, or should I prepare the fridge for the meat? Garou offered her a choice, fight the giant frog head-on or leave him to butcher the mutant into meat for the fridge. Gwen rolled her eyes at Garou's suggestion to turn the giant frog into food. I think it's best if we both handle this. Just to be safe. Gwen's sly smile insinuated something else otherwise. From his time spent with her, he had a good idea of her intent. You're calling dibs on the frog, aren't you? Garou soured. Gwen had enjoyed teaching the former hero hunter the art of dibs and other slang in the interim. See? We're getting to know each other so well. Gwen patted Garou's back happily, grinning at Garou's grumbling. He sounded more like Ben, but much more fun whenever he was like this. The doctor would soon have his vengeance. Those idiots that dared deny him what was his had no idea the dedication and zeal he poured into developing a new branch of biology. No longer shall he endure that run-down apartment, skipping months of rent just to get by as he poured his everything into his work. How dare they foolishly pick someone else for the award instead of him? He would make them pay. He would make them all pay. He would. Bleh. XLR8 smacked him out of his thoughts before he could finish his internal monologue. Gwen knocked him out of his mount, catching his attention as the doctor growled at his attacker. Who dares interrupt the great work of Dr. Onimo? He shouted. Great work? I wouldn't call excess robbery great. Especially the frog. Gwen jokingly mocked, a blue and black visor shifting up to reveal her blue, reptilian face. XLR8, otherwise classified as a kinoceleran, was a bipedal lizard with black wheels for feet. She wore a blue jumpsuit that matched her usual shirt and a long blue tail with 5 lightly tinted stripes. The transformation also granted Gwen 3 black claws on each hand and spiked elbows. Onimo gnashed his rotted teeth, infuriated by this creature's mockery of his crusade. How dare you, freak! Destroy her! He shouted, commanding his enthralled mutant bullfrog to do his bidding. Croaking, it roared before it lashed its putrid tongue at the blue lizard. However, it did not hit her. Instead, it felt something hitting its sides. Too slow. Got to be faster than that. Gwen laughed as she zipped again. XLR8 was fast, but Garou did mention her flaw in controlling her speed. He advised that she should practice her control over her mobility first more than pure velocity for now. What was even more surprising was that Garou was actually as fast as her, probably even faster. His control over his movements was far cleaner as well, since she could not cancel her momentum in high speed as effectively. Growling, I'll show you. Dr. Onimo growled hatefully, looking around the store for something to mutate. His eyes caught sight of a section dedicated exclusively to selling animals as pets, housing birds, hamsters, and more. Taking advantage of this, Onimo twisted the dial in the center of his chest plate. In response, a lightning bolt of red electricity surged to life on top of his helmet and careened towards said intended area. Once it did, it struck the bird as it changed, growing in size, its white color darkening, and its aggression amplified as it screeched under Onimo's command. "Ha, so that's how you made the giant bullfrog." "Ha." Onimo looked behind him. He saw a boy, brown hair, white shirt, baggy jeans, no more than 10 years old appearance-wise. Both of his arms behind his back and his feet pressed together, and he stood with his back straight as he looked up at him. "And who are you, brat? Go run away like the others." Onimo roared. However, the kid's response was a smile, before he raised his leg and smashed something Onimo only used to release his ammonia. The boy smashed his PP with an upward kick, the impact crushing his SERTM as if trying to bury it into his intestines. The pain science could not describe such agony. Oh, how could such pain even exist? Dr. Onimo's eyes popped out of their sockets, white foam bubbling out of his mouth as he collapsed onto his knees. The great scientist unceremoniously passed out entirely in an instant. The monstrous parakeet, outraged by its MSTR's defeat, lunged at the unconcerned Garou with a high-pitched screech. The bird cawed at the boy, beak open and ready to maim the boy of 10. However, the closer it got to him, it stopped when it saw something monstrous. A dark, oppressive aura emerged from the boy, forming into a demonic skull staring down at it. The boy's size seemed to triple, no, quintuple. It was still growing as the weight of the pressure bore down on it, as if it were drowning in water. The moment the bird was about to crash into the boy, it stopped and perched the floor, bowing its head down to the ground before the boy as he looked down on it with a stern gaze and a smirk. Those who were still present watched as the monstrous bird kowtowed before the kid, unable to parse the scene with their minds. Grandpa Max, holding a shopping cart filled to the brim with groceries, was one of those witnesses. The boy was even petting the bird, showing no signs of fear, only casual demps. "That boy scares me sometimes," Max mumbled, shaking his head in disbelief. Never in his years did he saw a mutant yield to a kid the age of 10. Meanwhile, XLR8 was panting, but she stood over the bullfrog in victory. "Come on, Gwen. We're done," Garou said as he walked over to Onimo and stomped on his headgear, smashing it to fragmented bits. Once the machine was destroyed, Onimo's bullfrog and parakeet reverted to standard size. Peace returned to the mall, scars of the battle remaining with the aftermath still glowing warmly. Shelves toppled and dust crumbling from the giant hole in the wall, the civilians slowly made their way back to the scene, spotting the two victors over the maniacal doctor and his former mutant pets, one of them walking over to the old skinny man while transforming back to her human form in a bright flash of red. Wonder what he was trying to do, anyway? Gwen pondered. He marched in here to steal some circuitry for some purpose. Gwen nor Garou didn't even give the robber a chance to declare his intentions. He did give his name, though. Who cares? He's beaten. Let's just leave with the food before he wakes up and rant nonsense. I'm hungry as heck. Garou shrugged as they walked away. As Gwen was about to leave, she noticed the same parakeet happily flying around Garou's head. She smiled at the warm sight, finding the bird circling around a former villain's head cutely. Looks like you have a new friend. Gwen chuckled lightheartedly. Garou looked up, seeing the bird chirping circles. Go away. Shoo. Garou tried to wave it away, but it still circled his head. Gwen started to giggle when the bird landed on Garou's head, chirping in response. Max, noticing the heavily damaged cash register and store shelves, rolled his cart over to the cashier. Can I still pay for this? Max whispered in pure curiosity. The cashier poked his head from the counter, looking at him and the defeated scientist and creature. His eyes then fell on the two children that supposedly saved the day, strange as they may be. Are they yours? He pointed at them. Yeah, those are my grandkids, Max replied proudly. Oh, take them. It's on the house. The cashier gave Max a thumbs up. Your kids have a bright future. Though they do seem strange. Just like their grandpa. Max joked. A month's supply of food, acquired. For days had passed since that random encounter. From that point on, the traveling three encountered more strange happenings ever since Garou entered Ben or Gwen obtained that strange watch. The next day after defeating the Dr. Onimo weirdo, the three encountered a lake kraken. Some idiot was trying to poach her eggs. The cops carried the poachers to jail as they lost their family jewels. Max did not approve, but Gwen laughed when she saw him crush their pride through their groins. But she didn't support Garou taking a piece of the kraken to sample as meat. The second day, they visited a kind woman named Aunt Vera, the sister of Max Tennyson. Her personality matched her obesity, the kind that tends to invade personal space much to Garou's chagrin. For some reason, a host of aliens decided to snatch the neighbors to colonize on the surface. It was the first shape-shifting species Garou encountered, and he did not approve of the betrayal. The fate of the alien colony lay beneath the earth, puddles of goo slipping away from life and memory next to their burning ship. The third day was Garou fulfilling his promise to teach Gwen martial arts. However, it involved much intensive LBR and focus, forcing her to carry heavy things for a mile like rocks or a shopping cart of groceries on her back. Garou found her struggles amusing. Gwen was livid that he enjoyed her suffering. She released her stress against Garou through their sparrings. Afterward, they arrived at a strange town outside the arid desert, one filled with an alien species the locals called megawatts. After Gwen accidentally destroyed a giant RBB band ball using 4 arms, hundreds of these annoying little imps wreaked havoc on the inhabitants of Sparksville. They were speedy and equally irritating. Discovering a new technology bonding alien called Upgrade, Gwen decided to win the battle with brains over brawn, the way she usually solves problems in human form. She transformed into Heat Blast and tricked the group of electric miscreants into sealing themselves inside the world's largest fish bowl. The mayor then converted it into a light bulb, cashing in on the spectacle as a tourist attraction. He also constructed a sign that stated, "In case of emergency, do not break the glass." Garou laughed at the miscreants trapped inside with great mocking joy, and he laughed harder when they banged on the glass and raged. He really sounded like Ben when he laughed, though the two Tennysons weren't sure. All in all, it was an eventful 4 days, with Gwen discovering 3 new aliens in the process. Now, they stayed in a hotel for a single night, somewhere around New York as the 2 children wandered around the place, one of them eating a kebab of roasted tentacles he got from the Kraken. "How do you still have that?" Gwen shivered with a disgusted face. Garou gulped before answering. "Savoring it for quite a while. Still got some leftovers in the fridge if you want." Garou smirked before biting into his tentacle. "I don't think you should be eating it, though. We don't know where the Kraken's been." Gwen scolded in worry, thinking of how many possible infections it could possess. "Hey, it's cooked. Besides, I've eaten raw monster meat before, and look at me," Garou replied. Gwen nearly hurled at the mention of Garou eating raw monster. She still couldn't picture what kind of monster he meant, but she did not want to find out. "Why would you do that?" Gwen shrieked with shrunken irises, comically flailing her arms all over the place. "Why couldn't I?" Garou's tone grew solemn. "I was losing a lot of BLD on my way to save a kid from the monsters. It was either die or do what must be done." Every retort Gwen could think of died in her throat when Garou doled the severity of his side of the story. "Oh. But, still please don't eat that type of stuff in public," Gwen suggested, calmly. She did not want to be next to the guy that was eating a strange tentacle kebab. There was no such thing as a bluish octopus tentacle such as that, and such colors would indicate a high probability of poison. "What? It's tasty." Garou smugly smirked, irking Gwen with his stubborn refusal. "No, it's weird and gross. Just finish it up before anyone sees us." Garou finished it with a few large bites, his cheeks puff with alien meat as he swallowed faster than she could form a retort. Already did." Garou tosses the skewer to the public trash can as it landed. She stared at his puffed cheeks as he chewed triumphantly, almost as if teasing her for his amusement. Just," Gwen gaped in defeat, trying to regain her lost composure. "Yep." Garou snickered. Gwen rolled her eyes as she shook her head in defeat. "All right, freak. You're gonna pay for what you did." Gwen and Garou heard the gruff, impatient voice of a teenager. Attracted by the sound, the two turned around the corner. They encountered a possible mugging already in progress. 4 men surrounded another boy their age, well, bodily age. Garou was still 18 inside. They were pinning up a kid with unkempt black hair against the wall, one arm ready to hit the kid with a face of anger. They were ganging up on the kid, defenseless and alone in the alley, something that Gwen could not stand by and let happen. On instinct, Gwen was about to walk over to them, ready to shout and stop them with force if necessary, but she held her words when she saw Garou walking in the alley without a second thought. His eyes were sharpened, the shape mirroring his eyes from before, now in battle mode. Gwen could feel the hostility radiating from him like an overclocked heater. "This won't end well," Gwen sighed as she quickly ran after him. One of the four gangs caught the boy walking up to them. He nudged the others, grabbing their attention as they looked at the approaching kid. "Hey, you lost or something?" one of them asked. They looked down at the boy, not their age, who was looking up at them with a piercing glare. They admit his eyes were intensely sharp for someone his age. "Beat it, Pipsqueak. Go find your mommy." Another gang member snorted aggressively. "I'll give you a choice. If you don't leave with your tail behind your legs, I will tear out your spine and shove it in your butt." He snarled with a vicious comeback, unbefitting his appearance. The gang members, plus the black-haired kid and Gwen, hung their jaw at the threat. What kind of kid would say something so morbid his age? The leader of the four, wearing a cap above his brown skin, walked up to the 10-year-old brat, towering over him with a sneer. "Look, kid, I don't know where you got your vocabulary from, but you better go home before things get ugly, you hear of HHGHS?" The teenager lurched forward, eyes popping out of his eyes. Gwen dropped her jaw when Garou smashed his lunging elbow into his PP, crushing fragile thing with painful force. "Oh!" The black-haired kid flinched at sight, watching the victim topple to the floor, hugging his mandibles in pain. Not only that, the boy wasn't finished. Below his chin, Garou leaped and slammed his elbow into him from below, knocking out a tooth and the whites of the lead punk's eyes. Then, as an insult to injury, Garou reached his face and slammed his head down with all his weight into it. "Anyone else wants a piece of this?" Garou asked, daring the rest to come at him. The remaining three looked at each other for a moment, intimidated. Hey man, we don't want no trouble." The rest of the three raised their hands in surrender, not wanting to share their friend's fate. The kid sent the message loud and clear that he did not want to play with them. "One more time. Leave now, or I will break you like an egg. The shell will be your bones." "The omelet," he warned them again, slowly raising his fist to promise the pain that would come if they refuse. Whatever you say, bro." They conceded without resistance. Garou scoffed as he stepped off the guy's head, letting the trio grab the limp body of their leader by the legs and bolted the premises without another word. The other boy stared at his savior, his oslac jaw spreading into a smile of adoration on his side. "Whoa. That was sick, dude." The boy complimented with a broad smile, his brown eyes sparkling with wonder. Gwen walked over to Garou. Garou sighed, rolling his shoulders. Turning around, he took a good look at him from head to toe. The boy seemed to have long black hair with blue highlights. He wore a slightly ripped black tank top and cargo shorts of the same color. Along with wristbands and black boots, the boy had a gray medallion wrapped around his neck. "You okay?" Garou asked. He caught sight of his hands. They were riddled with blisters, like those of a mechanic. As for his eyes, they looked slightly malnourished. Not only that, his attire. It reminded him of his time on the streets, alone as well. "Yeah, thanks to you." "How did you do that, man?" The streetwise kid wondered eagerly. "Well, I am a martial artist." Garou flexed his little boy muscles jokingly. What he didn't know was how much his efforts paid off. Despite being lithe, his arms looked ripped, thick muscles compressed into a form with purpose. His spindly arms upgraded themselves significantly since last week through his relentless training. "Garou." Gwen came into view, and an annoyed scowl etched on her face. "Don't just leave me behind like that. And why'd you have to go overboard with them? Didn't you promise to hold yourself back?" Garou did not make eye contact as he whistled nonchalantly, pretending that she wasn't there. "Don't you ignore me like I'm not here." The orange-haired wielder of the omnitrix lashed out. "CRP," she read his mind. "Who's this, your girlfriend?" The street boy assumed curiously, looking at Gwen's body with an unimpressed frown. Her face flushed a deep red in response to this sudden question. "And no. For your information, we're cousins." Gwen huffed embarrassingly, playing with her hair as a nervous tick. "Yeesh. Don't bite my head off, Red." The stranger scoffed in annoyance, massaging his aching ears, tired of her annoying, loud voice. Don't mind her. So, Garou narrowed his eyes. Are you a mechanic by chance? Garou asked just in case. Yeah, how'd you guess? The boy stated hesitantly in surprise. Your hands. Garou pointed at his calloused hands. Those are calluses usually found on workers, either construction or mechanic. I did not see any scraped skin on you, so I assumed it was the latter. He pinpointed. Gwen and the stranger looked at Garou in surprise. You didn't tell me you can read people like that. Gwen retorted. I can do a lot of things. Garou gloated. Man, you know your stuff, kid. What's your name? The street kid asked. Offering his hand, Garou answered, Benjamin Kirby Tennyson. But people usually call me Garou. What's yours? Garou asked back with courtesy. Kevin. Kevin Levin. The boy introduced himself, taking Garou's hand in acceptance as they shook. However, Garou noticed something wrong when he did it. Kevin, on the other hand, flinched, instantly breaking off their handshake. Aha! Kevin winced in pain, looking at the smoke billowing from his hand. Garou paused, digesting the reaction in his eyes. He then understood the next moment. What just happened? Gwen questioned in confusion, not spotting any noticeable injuries on Kevin to speak of. Something I didn't expect. Kevin, are you human? Flexing the hand Kevin touched, Garou asked, curious about his ability. He felt something tingling the moment their skin made contact. It was a completely alien feeling, so he could only assume. Yeah. Kevin sheepishly rubbed his head as he hissed a little from the pain. Garou could see the steam rising from Kevin's hand, something abnormally heated. But I am kind of a special case, you see. He waved his steaming hand around for emphasis. What did you try to do to me? Garou asked, wondering what Kevin did to react like that. I don't know. That only happens when I absorb large amounts of energy. I've had that power ever since I was born. Kevin explained truthfully, not even knowing the origins of his absorption abilities himself. Ho! Garou then asked, so you used your power to test whether I'm human or not? Understandable given Garou's unique situation. Kind of. You just took down a guy 5 years older than you like he was nothing. And your martial arts were pretty freaky looking. He has a point. Gwen agreed somewhat. Ha 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 ha. Garou laughed, liking Kevin already. Yeah, but it's the truth. It is all pure technique. What you saw was years of culminating hard work. Garou smiled, finding another interesting thing the moment they arrived. Man, you need to show me. I could Kevin caught himself before he could reveal his true intentions. I mean do so much with that. Like defending yourself? Garou tilted his head, his eyes narrowing slightly with suspicion. Yeah. A lot of people don't seem to like me all that much. I've been living on the streets for quite a while. Kevin frowned in the recollection of his shaky upbringing. By yourself? Gwen gasped in disbelief. So you don't have a place to call home? Garou asked. He reminded Garou of himself somewhat, but at this age it was only sad. Well, I have this hangout in the subway. It's messy, but I manage all right. Kevin scratched the back of his head, feeling a bit self-conscious. That is a base. It is not a home. Garou corrected him. Were you abandoned here in the streets? How'd you end up here? Garou asked. Nah. My stepdad is a pain, so I ran away. I couldn't handle it anymore. Kevin hatefully growled as he furrowed his black eyebrows. Oh. Garou nodded, accepting his reason. I can relate, his parents were ignorant, worse. They betrayed him for common ideals. That's so selfish. What about your mom? Don't you care about her? Gwen argued against Kevin's actions, already having some semblance of maternal instincts. TSK. Who asked you? It's none of your business, so but out, princess. Kevin spat irritably, getting up in Gwen's personal space with an accusatory point. Hey! Garou. Gwen turned to him to talk some sense into Kevin. I ran away too, once. Garou looked up to the sky. Years ago, I did. Really? Gwen and Kevin replied in unison, pausing to frown at each other with crossed arms. Yeah. How'd you think I ended up living in a dojo for so long in the first place? Garou asked Gwen. She blinked, her mouth opening and closing at speechless intervals. She did not think that he abandoned his parents, she thought he was an orphan. I just assumed you were raised there. My mistake. Gwen apologized in momentary embarrassment. Yeah, don't worry about it. I did it for myself more than for them. Garou shook his head. What did you do? Kevin inquired with great interest. I climbed a mountain, Garou replied. Eh? The two pictured a young boy less than 10 climbing up a mountain. On foot. Holy CRP. That is hardcore. Kevin gasped in amazement, his smile getting even bigger as he learned more about this kid. Yeah. It is hardcore, Garou smacked his lips. He was not used to slang, now that he thought about it. How'd you do it? Gwen asked, almost whispering with a hand raised. There were stairs leading to the dojo. But it doesn't change the fact that the mountain is still high as hell. Garou reminded the pain that will remain. So, are we talking Everest height or? Kevin gestured with his finger pointing up. Garou's brain shut down a little when he heard Everest. He had no idea what an Everest was, but he would not specify. Knowing his poor knowledge of Earth's geography, Gwen leaned over to Garou's ear. Everest is the highest mountain in this world. It's about 29,029 feet tall. Gwen whispered informingly with a hand clasped over the side of her mouth. Oh, let's just say a working adult can't get there without bathing in their sweat. Kids around my age aren't allowed to get there, usually, Garou informed. Sounds pretty epic. I wish I could pull off a stunt like that. Kevin wistfully pictured himself pulling off the same feat. Yeah, it was a shame. He wanted to see if Kevin and Gwen could make the trek. He imagined Gwen dropping face down on the dirt while Kevin panting with all life drained from his eyes. Could be interesting to see you all become dry prunes, Garou smirked. As they chattered in the alley, screams suddenly filled the streets. The sound of metal clanking on pavement got louder and louder as a strange being approached the alleyway into their view. It was a robotic automaton with 4 yellow and brown legs, each producing cracks in the road as their owner walked. Its left arm had a giant crab claw where a hand should be, a gray nozzle concealed in between both pincers. The robot also had small yellow eyes and a hexagonal faceplate. It scanned the surrounding area, attempting to spot a particular object of abnormally high energy. Then, its optic lenses zoomed in on Gwen's wrist. The Omnitrix. The android, layered in bronze yellow, tread on 4 legs, crab-like and blunt on each end. Its voice box was predominantly male, its tone synthetic yet coarse, as the lens of its visor focused in on the wristwatch's green hourglass. Ha! Are you serious? The crab bot laughed upon looking at Gwen. Easiest bounty I ever made. Poising his crab arm at Gwen, energy gathering at the focal point between the pincers, he shot a stream of burning orange at the girl. However, sliding between Gwen and it, Garou interposed the beam and, with a swing, deflected it with his hand as it blasted a crumbling hole in the wall. Whoa, whoa! Kevin shouted, stumbling back, astonished by Garou's feat. Thanks. Gwen quickly stepped back as she prepared her omnitrix, cycling through the aliens one by one until she spotted 4 arms and struck the dial. 4 arms. She shouted in her alien form, flexing all 4 of her crimson arms before the assailant. The metal crab looked at the group, the kid that deflected his lasers with his bare hands, and then at the hole in the wall. I had to use my big mouth. The crustacean groaned as he aimed at Four Arms. I call first dibs. Four Arms shouted, but before she could jump at the assailant, Garou raised his hand and stopped her in her tracks. Denied. Thanks, I what? Four Arms blinked her 4 eyes at Garou. It was the first time he turned her down despite their nurtured relationship regarding the rights to fight the bad guys so far. You heard me. I got something cool to show Kevin. With a smirk, Garou walked over to the oversized bronze crab, rolling his shoulders one after the other with a confident gait. The attacker narrowed its lenses at the approaching kid, raising its pincer arm at the kid. Human or freak, I don't know but I don't care, but I'm not here for you. Hand over the omnitrix or there will be trouble. The cyborg crab threatened with a rapid clench of his pincers. Omnitrix? Four Arms caught notice of that word and looked down at the dial on her muscular chest. By this point, they had faced nothing but killer robots or random encounters with the strange and majorly criminal elements of their world. None of them so far mentioned the object that fell from the stars and latched onto her wrist. Garou looked back at Gwen and Kevin. He decided to show them something interesting strange. He never wanted to show off before. Either way, he needed to stretch his limbs. Sitting in a vehicle for hours of inaction was not healthy for his body. Hey, Kevin, Garou called out. Wanna see something cool? Like what? Blocking a frickin' laser and your cousin becoming a freak is hard to top. Kevin stated hyperactively, blown away by the sudden happenings. Confused, but indeed excited by the twist of events. About that, Garou smiled. Behind the assailant. Kevin and Four Arms blinked. When did he appear behind it? At one point, he was before the crab man, next second without them noticing, Garou was behind him without warning. Here, let me pass through for a second. At the first word of Garou's sentence, the bronze crab fell apart in a spectacularly loud fall, every limb of the metal crustacean rested beside Garou's feet, warped metal stumps replacing where its arms and legs were before. In his hand, Garou held something. It was the giant claw arm from the assailant. Aoag? The victim squalled. The owner of said limbs crashed on his face, flailing in panic like a fish on dry land. Not gonna lie, this is my first time preparing a crab this big. Kinda metallic, too, Garou finished off, his lines eliciting a groan from Four Arms. How can a human be able to move this fast? What are you? Some kind of kinoceleran hybrid? The mechanical crab grunted but failed as he had lost every part of his features. Garou turned to the metal crab, throwing away his primary arm. Looking at Gwen and Kevin, he wriggled his eyebrows as he relished their reactions. Four Arms couldn't help but giggle at his attempt to show off. Holy CRP, Kevin, on the other hand, was sparkling with wonder. What he saw was probably the coolest thing in his life. Okay, gotta admit, that was definitely cool. Gwen admitted. She wondered if she could mimic that with XLR8. Hey, at least we have some food in case we get hungry. Kevin, you have a can opener? Garou gestured to the canned food on the ground. Yeah, why? Kevin asked in knowing mischief, sharing Garou's longing to break the alien man open and see his insides. What? Don't even think about it, flesh bags. The cyborg alien warned assertively, trying his hardest to wiggle away somehow. Oh. Afraid we're gonna see your soft parts, little crab? Garou wriggled his eyebrow, insinuating his intentions. Gwen pursed her lips and shook her head like a highly disappointed mother. Garou, as amusing as this is, I think this is crossing some lines. Hey, this is an interrogation. Either he talks, or we crack him open. Besides, he knows the thing on your wrist more than we do. Garou tapped on his wrist for emphasis. That's true, she could not deny that. For once, someone who knew of the device on her wrist arrived, and the only one that knew of it was at Garou's mercy. But that doesn't mean we should torture it. We're heroes, right? Gwen rebuked. How else are you going to get him to talk? Bribery? You not expecting him to talk if we said sorry, are we? Kevin asked. Besides, I could take some nifty gadgets from this guy and see if I can sell it for a pretty penny. This is high-tech alien stuff, Kevin. We can't simply take it and sell it. Right, Garou? Gwen asked. Garou did not answer back, merely staring at the fallen crab bot for a moment. Garou? Ah, right. Though I do want to take a souvenir, maybe that laser claw. Garou muttered. Gwen was not amused, really. Oh yeah, definitely the laser claw, Kevin supported. No. Definitely not that. I am tempted for some reason when I see the laser claw, Garou admitted. There was something in him compelling him to take the scrap, but he didn't know why. He simply could not disagree with the appeal of having futuristic alien tech in his possession. Was it because of his current young age? No. Where will it even fit in the rust bucket? Ayak. Out of nowhere, a purple-suited figure dropped down from the sky and grabbed onto Gwen. He had a black visor with 4 pink lines extending from each corner, painted the same color as his massive shoulder pads. Attached to the mysterious individual's back was a gray jetpack that granted him the ability to fly. Gaia. Garou. Gwen screamed fearfully, seething in pain from the alien being's vice-like grip. Finally. Took you long enough, 6-6. The downed crab cyborg mused in an impatient tone. 6-6 immediately stepped back as Garou hoisted the crab's leg, holding it like a javelin while glaring daggers into the one called 6-6. A series of strange clicks and warbles came out of 6-6's visor instead of normal speech, like his colleague with a tinge of spite, wiggling around Gwen's entrapped wrist for emphasis. So what if you got the goods? Help me get out of here. You got the hostage. Go ahead and try if you want to find his leg in your brain, Garou warned, already aiming for 6-6's head. The armored alien called 6-6 warbled as something projected from its armor around from its left thigh, showing a compartment holding a cylindrical handle. Once it took the device, a laser blade of scarlet flared to life near Gwen's neck. Their gazes clashed, eyes sparking a deadlock of spite and daring. Meanwhile, Kevin darted his eyes between Garou and 6-6. He looked at him and then at his hands, then back at 6-6. On the one hand, he could run away and leave them for dead, but on the other hand, he could do something for them. What are you standing there for, 6-6? Cut the girl's arm off, and let's bounce with the watch. The crab shouted with narrowed optics. Gwen's skin paled a sickly white at this suggestion. 6-6 garbled back in random gibberish, anger present in its voice. Alright, I admit I got careless, but seriously, mutant or not, he's still a human. Garou, please. Gwen yelled out desperately as 6-6 garbled back at them. While they were not looking at him, Kevin ran towards 6-6 and tackled the armored alien, locking his arms around its waist as he performed his magic. You owe me for this. Kevin shouted as a stream of blue energy permeated around Kevin's body, the power of 6-6's advanced suit coursing through his veins. 6-6 shrilled in garbles of vocal panic, raising his laser sword to slash at Kevin's head. However, before it swung, something rammed through his hand and dragged him down the alleyway away from Kevin until it struck the wall and dropped Gwen as she tumbled mid-flight. Garou looked at 6-6 as his foe's spear pulled it away from Kevin and pinned it to the wall. You idiot! Don't let her use the watch. Krob cried out in anger. This inadvertently gave Gwen the idea to perform said action as she picked herself off the ground. 6-6 shouted back as he grabbed the pike and struggled to yank it off his other hand. Kevin, twitching slightly from the intake of new power, observed his body for any noticeable changes. What do you mean the osmosion crippled your weapon system? Kevin did not know what they were talking about, nor did he care. All he knew was that he was high on alien energy, and he was about to kick some butt. He ran towards 6-6, grinning as he pulled back his right arm. Hey, tin face. Kevin shouted as he punched 6-6 clean across the face. His empowered fist broke through the alien suit, the impact completely shattered 6-6's faceplate. 6-6 convulsed in immense pain, parts of his true appearance becoming more visible. He seemed to be an ugly gray creature with sharp teeth and insectoid eyes. Kevin punched. Hope. He punched some more. You like. He broke almost all of 6-6's visor, and he was still pinned down by the hand. A bloody knuckle sandwich. 6-6 was practically close to passing out, the breathing apparatus built within his suit beginning to fail. Slobber was starting to ooze out of his broken jaw as well. Are you frickin' serious? The crab thrashed around, rolling left and right, trying to get away from the kids, but before he could gain ground, he felt someone stepping on his metal body. Not so fast, Tin Can, Gwen declared, smiling victoriously over the android. DMN it all. This is just not my day. Meanwhile, Kevin continued beating on 6-6, until he felt a hand stopping him. He turned around, seeing Garou holding his shoulder. Stop. You've won. Garou gestured to the sorry state of 6-6. Kevin blinked as he looked at 6-6 again, seeing the alien bleeding and bruised. Oh. Kevin could feel his heart still pumping with energy. He slowly lowered his fist as he tried to calm himself. But you did well. Garou smiled. For a street punk. Kevin couldn't help but scoff at his remark. Hey, I've been in street fights. Well, I'm not as good as you, but I still have room to level up. Kevin joked back. As they chattered, another voice interjected their conversation from above. Impressive. You Earthlings really do know how to make a mess of things. A deep, booming voice came from the sky. Riding on top of a hoverboard, a third alien of a much bigger stature descended from the heavens. He wore a gray suit of armor with black boots and shoulder pads, his face concealed by a large helmet. He also only seemed to have one glowing green eye in the mask's centermost point. Oh, Tetrax. Quick, get us out of here. The crab shouted, wriggling around in protest, wanting to escape from this hellscape. Kevin clenched his knuckles, ready for a fight. Garou entered his stance, ready to add another victim to his win streak. Oh. Dibs. No excuses. Gwen shouted, priming her watch or omnitrix, whatever they called it, and prepared to press down on her selected alien. She had watched from the sidelines as Garou took one guy down, and Kevin took down the second. She refused to lag behind the scoreboard and not kick alien butt. You are mistaken, Krob. While I am surprised that you and 6-6 somehow fell, in the end, the bounty was never ours to share. The alien called Tetrax expressed. The three kids were confused. Did they have a falling out? You double-crossing son of a slagmarite. I will dash. Tetrax ignored the bounty hunter's stream of insults, walking towards Gwen's current position as intended. Who are you? Gwen asked as she was about to hit the dial at the slightest provocation. Garou inspected the bulky figure from head to toe. If he was anything like Dark Shine, Garou could still break him down. Just in case, he picked up another one of the crab robot's legs and pulled back. I am known as Tetrax. The armored alien introduced himself. I was sent here to retrieve the Omnitrix before it fell into the wrong hands. However, it seems I'm too late. Make one wrong move, and we will shred you like him. Gwen shouted, pointing at the limbless bronze android. Tetrax glanced back at the heavily wounded Krob and 6-6 for a moment before switching his focus back to the children. None of you are injured, correct? Tetrax asked in minor concern, his features concealed under his mask. Garou, Kevin, and Gwen looked at each other and then back at him, confused by his question regarding their safety. Dude. We just kicked their butt. I'm pretty sure we can take you on, big guy. Kevin boasted as he raised his fist, ready for another brawl? I simply felt obligated to ask. Those two were some of the most ruthless bounty hunters in the entire galaxy. It's quite an anomaly by human standards. Tetrax emphasized in a monotone. You aren't with them, are you? Garou asked, taking a shot in the dark. It was rare for a group of villains to have a falling out in front of innocents. Even rarer when one of them was a double agent hiding within their ranks. No. They, however, thought otherwise, even though we are competitors. Tetrax revealed, gesturing to Krobs and Sixix's injured bodies. The three relaxed their guard, but still ready to fight as they stood before a stranger with unknown intentions. Garou wasn't sure what he wanted. Gwen was nervous and excited, finally able to learn the origins of the device on her wrist. Kevin he was just along for the ride, spectating with interest. Could you tell me about the watch then? Gwen awkwardly wondered, holding up her wrist so that Tetrax could see it. Within his mask, the alien's face darkened somewhat at the sight of the hourglass dial. It is indeed your right to know what fate dragged you in. The device on your wrist is a highly advanced biotransformer that contains the DNA of all extraterrestrial life in the known universe. It shouldn't be in the hands of a naive child. Tetrax summarized intently, sharing only the most necessary information. What? The trio uttered at the same time. The word DNA of every life in the known universe shattered all expectations. Garou was convinced that it was a transformation device, but not one with options of such a universal scale. All of the aliens in the universe, Gwen coughed with widened eyes, looking down at the omnitrix in awe with hyperventilating breaths as the possibilities opened before her eyes. Yes, but neither you, nor anyone, was meant to possess it. Whatever you did to obtain it, it was an unintentional error. Tetrax accused harshly, pointing his finger at Gwen's comparably small figure. And I'm here to fix that, Tetrax stated, approaching Gwen with an outstretched hand. Are you? Gwen reflexively pulled her watch back in defense. You'll have to come with me. The omnitrix has bonded to your genetic structure. It cannot be removed by simple means, so I must bring you with me to my ship. He had come to take her watch away. Gwen looked at the omnitrix, remembering all the good she did with it on her hands. As a logical girl, Gwen could not deny Tetrax's logic, having more experience and familiarity with the omnitrix than she did. But she did not want to let it go. No, she refused to believe that she could not be worthy of it. She may not have the proper knowledge or insight to the risks and functions of the alien device, but she would not accept that she did not have the potential to MSTR it. No way. I've done nothing but good with this watch, and I'm not just giving it up that easily. Gwen yelled as she protectively rested a hand on her wrist. Tetrax did not respond for a moment, merely staring at her in contemplation. Your kind is not ready for this level of technology. By right, it is not yours to keep. Tetrax slightly raised his booming voice. I'll prove it then. Gwen stammered, remembering the time Garou challenged her to spar. If she did not have the right, then she would fight for it. I challenge you to a duel. Winner takes the omnitrix by right of combat. Gwen growled in active defiance, her temper dominating the more logical side of her brain. Tetrax continued staring at her. Despite his metallic helm covering his countenance, the three could sense a tinge of surprise behind the mask. A duel? Aren't you too young to gamble by combat? Tetrax asked, amused by her issue. So what if I am? Come on. Afraid to lose to a girl? Kevin whistled at her brazenness. He had to admit, she had guts. Interesting dare for a child. Very well. But to affirm your logic, if you come out the loser, then all further arguments will be annulled, Tetrax accepted with a nod. He then scanned the damaged alleyway and his rival hunters, the green light glazing the environ. However, we will do it outside of the city. The less these humans see, the better. Tetrax ordered authoritatively, deploying his green hoverboard once more. Deal. Gwen nodded, burning figurative holes in Tetrax's head. "I'm starting to like her more and more," Kevin admitted with a pleased grin. "I think I am rubbing off on her a little too much." Garou wasn't sure if she was taking reference from his actions so far, resorting to combat first and negotiation second. Before heading out, Tetrax took out a strange weapon from within his jumpsuit. It was a small handheld gun with a glowing generated in the center. "Do something for me, first. Gather 6-6 and place him by Krob," Tetrax exclaimed, staring at Kevin and Garou's general direction. Garou and Kevin looked at each other for a moment before they shrugged. "All right. We need to clean them up anyways." Garou walked to 6-6 and, with a careless yank, pulled the brutalized 6-6 from the wall, tearing out the cybernetic arm in the process. Tendrils of sinewy wires and crumbling circuits bled from the stump as Garou dragged him towards Crab and dumped it next to the limbless one. 6-6 groaned in its bloodied slumber atop of Crab's optics. "I hate this planet," Crab grumbled to himself in annoyance. Tetrax then fired the digitized cube at both galactic criminals. The projectile hit the ground and grew in height and width, trapping the two inside of it before shrinking back to normal. "I'll bring them to the proper authorities once we're finished," Tetrax explained, picking up the small cube and gently placing it back in his pocket. Garou whistled, impressed with the defiance of physics. As far as he knew, there was nothing like that was possible back home. The more he saw advanced alien tech, the more interested he grew. "Let us go. Attention is starting to spread the longer we're here." Tetrax referred to the possible crowd of onlookers that will congregate the longer they stay. The armor-clad alien then flew on his hoverboard to the furthest edge of the city. Garou, Gwen, and Kevin followed close by. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 3. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author I4MD347H on fanfiction.net. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.